Okay, this is a short video reviewing composite functions. We have a test on Thursday, Friday of this week, so this is to help you with that. First of all, let's review tables. So this is for when we have like f of g of x or g of f of x or whatever, and we're pulling the values off a table. So this is one way you might see it. In this case, your table is horizontal. Notice your top row is your x's, the second row is your f of x's, and then the g of x's are in your third row. So if you had something like g of f of 2, so what that tells us that you're going to do is this 2 value is your x. So let me color that yellow. You're going to go up to your x row, which is the very top one, and you're going to find your 2. Okay, well your 2 is right up here. So you're going to start there, and you're going to go down to the row with your f's. So your f in this case, so this is f of 2. So f of 2, if we go down from 2 where we see our f, so this is our white row, is negative 3. Let me put this in white because that's the color of the row. So we have a negative 3. That's your output from your inner function. So that's going to become our new x, and that's what we're going to look for in g, and g is green, so let's put that one in green. So we have g of negative 3. So now we're going to restart with our x's. We're going to go up to our negative 3, which is here, and we're going to go down to our g value. Well, g in that column is 23, so that's going to be 23, and that's our final answer. So we did it just like before. We have our output of the first, becomes our input for your second, and you keep going until you run out of functions. Okay, let's try another one. Let's say you had f of g of negative 1. Okay, f of g of negative 1. So our first step, our x is our negative 1, right? So we go into our table, we go to our negative 1, which is right here. And we're going to go down to our g because that's our inner one. So we want g of negative 1. Well, g of negative 1 is 4. That's what's in our green row, so we have 4. That's our output from this first level. Then, I should have done that green, but that's okay. So our next one, we're going to take it out to our f. So you'll notice at first, here in green, we did our g of negative 1. Then we're going to take it out to our f. So we're going to do our f function, but it's not f of 1. It's f of our output, so this is f of 4. So whatever we got in our first step, that goes in here. So now we go into our table. If we go up to the yellow row up top, we see 4, and we go down to our f, which is a 5. So f of 4 is 5, and that's our final answer. So that's if our table is horizontal. Now there's another case, and both of these might be on the test. The next one is when our table is vertical instead. So it's the exact same thing, it's just up and down instead of sideways. So in this case, let's say you have f of g of negative 3. Okay, so f of g of negative 3, f of g of, our negative 3 is yellow, let's put that in yellow. So that's where we're starting. So we go to negative 3 and we want g. Well, our g of negative 3 is a 2. Okay. G of negative 3 equals 2. So that's our output. That becomes our new x value. So we go over to 2. And now we want the f of that though, because we're going to our next level out, right? So we're going out here. So we want f of 2. So if we look in our table at 2 and we go across to our f value is a 1. And that's our final answer because we're out of functions. So we're going to do that again. Let's say we had g of 2. So g of 2 looks like this. We're going to start with our inside. So g of 2, we're going to go in the table. We started our 2, we go across to g, and g of 2 is a negative 5. So that's our first output. And that becomes our input for our next layer out, so which is also a g. So we say g of negative 5. So then we go up to a negative 5 and we start there. And we're going to go over to our g column. Well, in this case, it's a 1. So that's also a 1, so that's our final answer. So those are the tables. So now let's go to one that's not a table. So earlier today in tutoring, we had somebody ask, well, where would I actually use this in real life? And we had the little machines example in our last video where you stuck a tree in and eventually you ended up with paper. But then I was thinking about it and I was like, well, wait a second. We have everyday examples. is your money. So what your company pays you and what you take home are two different things, right? So there's all kind of stuff is coming out of your money. But let's look at the big ones. So this green over here, that's what your company pays you. But before it makes it to you, they're going to take taxes out and they're going to take your retirement fund out, which is your 401k. Well, so the way 401k works a lot of times is your 401k will come out before your taxes do. So you start out with your money. So that's here. Part of it goes into 401k. So part of it goes to 401k. And what's left over comes down here, and that's your taxable income. Because a lot of times they'll take that out before they take out taxes. So then from your taxable income, they'll take out taxes, and after that, whatever's left over, that's what you get. So let's go to the next page. Let's say you have X amount of money, right? This is what your company pays you. Company money. So if you want to call, let's say R of X. Let's say that's what you get. Ooh, let's make this a capital R so it's more understandable. R of X. This is what you're going to get after you take out your retirement fund. So this is, let's say you're putting 6% into your retirement. So 6% to 401k. Sounds like a chess move, but no, okay. So this means that whatever you make, that's your X, you're going to subtract 6%. Well, 6% is 0.06, right? 0.06 times your X. So your R of X is really 0.94x. 0.94x. So that's what happens. That's what's left over after they take out your 6% for your 401k. Okay, well, that's the first step. But then you're going to take that and you're going to take your taxes out. Well, let's say 25% is going for taxes. So 25% out of taxes to taxes. So that means your T of X is going to be X minus 0.25 times your X. So this means that after taxes are coming out, you get 0.75 of whatever your X is. So those are your two equations. So let's go to the next page. Let me copy these. I'm going to make them smaller so we can see them better. Or so that we can get them out of the way, sorry. Okay. Let's go here. And I'm going to take these two out of the way because we already looked at those. I'm going to move this up. So what happens then? We're going to do this in sequence. So if you make, let's say you make $2,000 a month. So X equals $2,000 a month. Well, your take-home pay is going to be after you take out for your R, right? So this is going to be like T of R of X. So, okay, so we're going to start with our inside. So you're going to do R of X, but our X is 2,000. So this is really T of R of 2,000. T of R of 2,000. So 2,000, so R of 2,000 is going to be 0.94 times 2,000. So that's like 1,880, I believe. Let me pull out my calculator just to check this. So if we have 0.94 times 2,000, so that's 1,880 equals 1,880. Okay, so that's after your retirement. But now you're going to take your taxes off of that. So T of, but now it's T of 1,880, not T of 2,000. So 1,880. So that's going to be 0.75 times 1,880. Okay, so 0.75 times 1,880. That gives you $1,410. So you're really taking home $1,410. Da-da-da. So that's a function within a function, right? That's our composite. So that's f of g of x, or in this case, t of r of x. Let's do one more with f and g. I know we're over our 7 minutes now, so this video is going a little bit longer, but we'll just do one just as an example. Let's say you have let's say you have these two functions. F of x is 2x plus 1, g of x is 3x minus 2. And let's say the test comes along and it says, okay, what's f of g of 2? So you're going to do your inside first. So that's our g of 2. So g of 2, we're going to plug in our 2. So this is 3 times 2 minus 2. So this is straight from that function. Only we're plugging in a 2. Well, 3 times 2 is 6 minus 2. That's a 4. That's our first output. And then that output is what we're going to plug into our next level, where our next level is an f, right? So we're going to go f of, and we're going to put the 4 in. So that goes here. We're going to plug that directly into our f equation. This is 2 times 4 plus 1, sorry. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So 9 is our final answer. So f of g of 2 is 9. Okay, good luck on your test.